Hello, everyone. My name is John Brenneman. Thanks for joining us today. I'm very excited about today's webinar. I always love the webinars when we are announcing a new signature group. For those of you who don't know, they are the most popular thing that we do. I think they're literally the most fun. It's your opportunity to travel with your fellow MOAA members. So let's get right to it. Before we get started, I always like to let everybody know we are recording the webinar. This evening or tomorrow morning, you'll receive an email with a link to this webinar, so you'll be able to watch it again. Since we started right on the hour, if Tim or I say anything that you want to revisit later or share with someone else, just kind of make a note of what time it is. And then when you get the webinar, if you don't want to watch the entirety of the webinar, it'll be about an hour long. If it's like, say, 35 minutes in, you can just fast forward to that part to get right to that part of it. So let's get started. The first thing we always talk about, Tim, if you don't mind jumping to the next slide, is we like to talk about MOAA vacations a little bit. I think most of the people who are on today's webinar have been on a previous one, so I'm going to go through this relatively quickly. The first thing we always talk about is our concierge level of service. We are and continue to be the only travel agency in the country that does travel on a satisfaction guaranteed basis. If you have any issues, problems, concerns, either before or during your trip, you just reach out to us and we'll get that matter resolved for you. We do guarantee the lowest price. In addition to that, we have a MOAA amenity program where it is a value-added amenity on top of that lowest price, gives you even more value for your travel dollar. And then, of course, what we're going to talk about today would be group opportunities, the opportunity to travel with your fellow MOAA members from across the country, your local chapter, your state council, as well as across the country. And with that, that segues into the MOAA signature groups. As this next slide shows, there are a couple of things about the signature groups we always like to highlight. As a little reference, we do a lot of groups. You may have seen them either in Military Officer Magazine, or for those of you who have done a previous webinar, you should be receiving our monthly newsletter. So you do see that we do group opportunities. About half the people that reach out to us either by phone or email, excuse me, are looking for the opportunity to travel with their fellow MOAA members. And by that, I would mean someone will give us a call and say, I'm looking to go on Atlas. I want to do Antarctica, next year. Are there any MOAA group departures going? And then your cruise consultant will be able to let you know if any of those groups are available. Signature groups are what I kind of call groups on steroids. So they have all the benefits that you would get in a group, which is going to be not only the camaraderie of traveling with your fellow MOAA members, but also a discount by the fact we hold group space. So the signature groups have more amenities to that. The first, which is the fact that they are hosted by MOAA leadership and staff. They are on board to ensure that you have a stress-free vacation. As much as possible, they are all inclusive. We include as much as we can. Tim is going to talk about that a little bit later, but we'll kind of go through what's all included in this. We do like to set up exclusive onboard events and excursions if we can. We are actually right now working on at least one, possibly two excursions for the 2025 signature group, which is on Atlas, on that Greek Isles itinerary. And we look to do the same for the 2026 signature group that is also on Atlas, where we sail from Dublin to Lisbon. We always have a welcome reception. We also have a farewell reception as well. So you can anticipate those, an opportunity at the beginning of the cruise to meet all of your fellow members who are on board, and then kind of a farewell at the end of it as you say goodbye to friends old and new. Family and friends are invited. Kind of backtrack a little bit. In fact, anything we talk about that we offer to MOAA members is extended to anyone who travels with you. So when we talk about the MOAA exclusive amenities, when we talk about the service, when we talk about the guaranteed low prices, and then the groups that we offer, if you have friends or family that you would like to bring with you on any trip you book through MOAA Vacations, be it a group or an individual trip. Your friends and family are invited, and they receive all of the amenities that you receive as a MOAA member. The key there is they need to travel with you. So if you bring people along, they are treated as if they are MOAA members. Your family is our family, for lack of a better word. And then, of course, we always like to mention these are rare opportunities. Most years we only do two. We did do three in 2024, and we have three in 2025, but in 2026, we are going back to just offering two signature groups. If you hadn't heard, the first one, which was announced, I think, a couple of months ago, is a river cruise. It's on Uniworld, who we used for our river cruises in the past. That is actually highlights of Eastern Europe, which goes from Budapest to Bucharest. So this, the signature group that we're doing on Atlas is kind of the opposite of that, for lack of a better word. Whereas the first one is river for Eastern Europe, this one is ocean for Western Europe. So that's kind of a quick kind of summary. We are going to focus today on the 2026 cruise. It was just announced. You probably got that announcement email, I think, just a week and a half ago, is when we announced. As that notice said, this will be promoted. It'll be nationally announced by MOAA in the December Military Officer magazine. So basically, for the next 30 plus days, you have a unique opportunity to go in and purchase or select your stateroom. We are holding the entire ship, to select the stateroom that you want prior to it being announced to all 360,000 MOAA members. We will talk briefly about the Greek Isles cruise. There are only 12 staterooms remaining, but the focus is going to be on 2026. I would say, when I talk about the opportunity to select your stateroom, the Atlas Voyager, which is the sister ship to the Atlas Navigator, which is what we're using for Greek Isles. So Navigator for Greek Isles, Voyager for the Western Europe, only has 10 suites on it. And the first three stateroom categories to close were the Navigator, Discovery, and Journey suites. So if you were looking to get a suite on this Western European cruise, you do need to act quickly. I would assume in the next 30 days that 10 of those are going to be gone. So out of the 92 staterooms, 10 of those are suites, and then the other 82 are spread out across a variety of other cabin categories. And all of that information is on the website, the link to which was in the invitation. When we send the email that has the link to this recording, it will also include a link to the website, so you can go in. For example, time doesn't permit us to really go into a lot of detail day by day for this 10-night cruise, and there is an opportunity to do it as a back-to-back, making it a 20-night cruise from Reykjavik all the way to Lisbon. And so that itinerary is in there as well. So rather than kind of spend time going in detail of that day to day, you can go to the website and actually read what the agenda is for every day of both of those 10-night cruises. Anyway, and then you can also see the deck plan, select your stateroom, and those types of things. So all that information on board. So all of that will be sent to you tomorrow. So that's kind of a quick overview of MOAA and the signature groups. I know a lot of people, I kind of was looking at the list today. We had a little over 100 people register for this webinar, a lot of whom are already booked on the Greek Isles Atlas yacht cruise, which is actually going to provide you additional savings as a past passenger of Atlas. If you go in Greece in 2025, in 2026, you'll obviously be an Atlas past passenger. So before I turn it over to Tim, who's kind of going to go through a number of things with us, I just want to give you a quick overview. So Tim, who is with Atlas, is going to talk to us a little bit about Atlas, and then he's going to get into kind of detail, show the itinerary and everything else about this fantastic Western European cruise we're doing. The ship that we're on is a yacht. I know a lot of MOAA members prefer the smaller ships. As I know I mentioned it before, it only has 92 staterooms. So there's only 184 people in the group. It is a great size for a group when we take the whole ship. Much larger than that, you might get off after 10 days and feel like you didn't meet everybody. But by 10 days on the ship with a group that size, you're really going to have an opportunity to get to know everybody in the group. Following Tim's presentation, the two of us are going to remain online and do a Q&A. We will answer any questions you might have. If you have a question, if you kind of put your cursor down at the bottom of the screen or scroll down or whatever device you're on, you'll see a little menu that pops up. In some cases, I've said this before, some people said it's on the side instead of the bottom. I guess that's kind of dependent upon how you have your Zoom set up. But you'll see a little couple of conversation bubbles that says Q&A. I am going to answer questions during Tim's presentation. So if you have any questions, feel free to answer those right away. One of the questions we always get is solo travelers. There is a single rate on the majority of the stateroom categories. I think, if I remember correctly, Tim, don't all of the staterooms except the suites have a solo rate?
Correct. Correct.
Correct. Okay, so if you're traveling as a solo, you could obviously, find a friend to go with you. But if you want to be in a solo stateroom, there is a solo rate for every non-suite cabin category. So you have a choice whether you want a balcony or you want, a stateroom that just has a window. So once again, I said all that information is on the website. I just know one of the first questions we always get is about single travelers. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn off my camera and mute myself, and I'm going to be answering questions in the Q&A. If it's a question I think everyone will be interested in, we will revisit again when Tim gets done with his presentation. So Tim, without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to you and tell us more about Atlas.
Thank you, John. You left out a couple of things, John, in your intro, because I've been working with you for a gazillion years, and your ability to negotiate phenomenal rates for your MOAA members is amazing. And I do want to just, as I'm thinking about it right now, two things that I took from your intro is the fact that you brought up the suites, and to my knowledge, as of the last couple days, I believe there's already 2 suites that are sold. So that's kind of the info I got from my office in Fort Lauderdale. So congrats on that. So again, to everyone listening.
Thank you, Tim. Yeah, as I mentioned, I actually was out of town last week, so some of you may have been on the scenic webinar I did last week, which I actually did from the ship as we were sailing from Bermuda to Bahamas. So I'd heard we had some sales, but yeah, that kind of reinforces what I said. So now we're down from 10 suites to 8 suites, and we're literally just doing the webinar today. So yeah, obviously, if you're not looking at a suite, it's not going to be nationally announced until December.
Right.
So no real pressure to book today, but if you want a suite, they go quick. So,
and that's another thing I wanted to bring up real quick to everybody, is the fact that this sailing that John has selected from Dublin to Lisbon, and hopefully if somebody wants to do a Reykjavik to Dublin, but the Dublin to Lisbon, it's not even for sale yet to the general public. So it's part of what John likes to do, which is a huge advantage for you all, the MOAA members. So with that said, I kind of want to get into, I'll spend a little bit of time on the itinerary. I'm going to go, maybe the day by day, I'll talk about a little bit, but I really want to introduce you to Atlas Ocean Voyages. We are I've been in this business for 32 years. I've been dealing with John's agency for probably 29 years, 28 years, 27. But the bottom line is, this is a fantastic product. Atlas Ocean Voyages, my whole point today is I want to talk a little bit about, obviously I want to talk a lot about the MOAA, but also share with you what else we do, because, obviously we do other destinations, and our commitment to our guests. That's the biggest thing that we really stress, is the commitment to our guests. And we're fairly new to the game, about 3.5 years, but obviously with COVID, but we're doing some great things. And I just kind of want to introduce you to the actual product itself. So basically, I have 3 ships in my fleet. I have the Navigator, the Traveler, and our newest vessel, the Voyager, which I sailed on in November, almost a year ago. Uh, we introduced her and christened her in Ushuaia for our Antarctica sailing. So she's an absolutely beautiful ship, and I'll talk a little bit more about the actual ships themselves. But the one thing about us is that we feel that we offer a new way to discover. I'm not going to read this whole thing, but really, what I like to just focus in on is discover the world in relaxed luxury, and that's truly what it's all about. You look at these vessels. I mean, beautiful lines. 10,000 gross registered tons, which may not mean anything to anybody, but at the end of the day, they're beautiful, beautiful vessels. But I get such a thrill when I sail on my product to listen to our guests talk about their experience during the course of that sailing, be it a 7-day, 9-day, 12-day, 18-day, whatever they're on, how they just feel. And kind of to John's point earlier, the fact that, especially with you all sailing all together, just the ability to establish relationships. It's so easy on a vessel with only 182, 100, possibly maybe 186 guests on board. So it's really, really, that's kind of what makes us a little different. But the most important thing is, while we're very casual, country club casual, basically, it's so gratifying to hear my guests talk about the fact that they kind of feel like, no matter if they're in Antarctica or if they're in Northern Europe or if they're in the Mediterranean, it doesn't matter. I hear them talk about how they feel like they're on their own private little yacht. We are an expedition company. Okay, keep that in mind. We are an expedition company, but I don't want you to get lost in the expedition space. I mean, the fact of the matter is we have 3 different expedition cruises that we do, but it's truly a transformative journey with a purpose, particularly of in-depth exploration and discovery. And it's very educational, very immersive, and very inspiring, in my opinion. So where do we sail? To update this, because we haven't even introduced our 26 itineraries yet, but we basically, you can read the screen, Antarctica. We really focus a lot in on Northern Europe, and obviously with Antarctica is huge for us, about 5.5 months out of the year. The Mediterranean, Northern Europe, Patagonia, the Falklands, South America. So we think we have a really good handle on where we go, and we've made some great decisions. A lot of people ask me straight up, are you going to be in North America? And quite honestly, I just don't see that now with our 3 vessels, possibly in the future. But right now, this basically is our focus moving forward. So as I mentioned before, we are an expedition company and a cruise product. So we offer polar expeditions, Epicurean expeditions, and cultural expeditions. And again, I won't get into all these, but so again, we're very well rounded. And so we have, I believe, a cruise for everybody. Hopefully everybody will join us on the Dublin to Lisbon in 26. But again, you have great choices. And of course, John and his staff are always there to help you with your choice. We are very, very destination focused. The size of our vessels allows us just that. Because again, 10,000 gross registered tons, only 182 guests. We're able to traverse through waters, quite honestly, that a lot of other cruise products cannot, especially when you're sailing in more of the mass market ocean cruises, for sure. But just the ability to hopefully dock in most cases. Sometimes we do still have to tender, but to be able to dock. These truly are intimate yachts. They're all 3. I mean, the oldest vessel I have is the Navigator, and she was built 3.5 years ago. The newest is the Voyager, which I just talked about. And the beautiful thing about my yachts is the fact that they're again, number one, new. Number two is they're just incredibly beautiful inside. So they're very, very intimate. And you know, I got to give it up to our staff. We have our personalized service. When you think about it, when you think about you and 182 of your MOAA friends are on a cruise, I will guarantee you the service is going to be something you've never seen before. It's almost a 1-to-1 guest to staff ratio, so you will be pampered for sure. And you know, an amazing. I just have to share this with you. I have somebody that I know had sailed in Antarctica, about in the same cruise I was on, and about a month ago, him and his wife sailed on the same ship, but 9 months later. And interestingly enough, you know, he loves to have his Manhattans before dinner. And he called me from the ship and said, Tim, you cannot believe this, but the bartender that was on the cruise in Antarctica was the bartender that was on his most recent cruise with his wife. And sure enough, he walks up to the bar, and the bartender said to him, Mr. John, welcome back. How would you like your Manhattan today? So I can, you know, again, maybe rare, but at the end of the day, I will tell you that the service on board our vessels is fantastic. And I always like to give it up to my team on board. Beautiful thing about Atlas Ocean Voyages, pretty much everything is included. I mean, there's a few exceptions. On this particular itinerary you're going to be on, there's a couple of excursions that you'll have, if you decide to go on excursions, that you'll have to pay for, but we do offer at least one excursion complimentary. But we have free dining venues. Our menus change pretty much every day. We have unlimited beverages, including fine wines, craft beers, cocktails, open bars and lounges, including 24-hour room service with special canopies. You know, it's again pretty much all inclusive, free in-room mini bars. I don't need to go through the whole list. The one thing that I think is most important, though, is the free prepaid gratuities, which is awesome. So again, you really don't have to worry about taking your wallet out and paying for anything. Butler service we do offer. That is pretty much in the suites only. But at the end of the day, we are always included. That's the term I like to use, that we are always included. Oops, sorry. So this is the ship that we've decided on, that John decided on. It's a World Voyager, beautiful ship. The beautiful thing about my fleet is the fact that they're all identical, all identical. So some of you that are on the phone, on the call right now, that may be sailing on the Navigator, when you sail on the Voyager, you're going to feel like you're at home. That's the beautiful thing about our fleet. So you'll know exactly where you're going. You know exactly where everything is located. And that's the wonderful thing about it. I picked this picture simply because I took the picture, and I just think this is a beautiful shot of the Voyager in Antarctica. A kind of a boring slide, but I just really wanted to share it with you because it kind of speaks volumes as to just really how small this vessel is. And you know, we basically have 7 decks. Our 8th deck is really used more for a track or whatever, if you want to work out a little bit. But deck 3, we do have 8 cabins that are what we consider to be called Atlas Ocean. They're ocean cabins, and I'll show that to you in a second. Deck 4 is pretty much primarily all of the areas that you'll go to as far as our restaurants, our theater, and things of that nature. Paula's Pantry, I'll talk a little bit about that. Deck 5 and Deck 6 are really focused on all of the other cabins. 90% of our cabins on board do feature verandas, and I'll talk a little bit about that. The only difference you'll see the only thing different on Deck 5 and Deck 6 is if you notice at the bow on Deck 5, it's a cool thing. It's called Water's Edge. I'll talk about that in a second. but you'll notice a lot of outdoor space. Deck 7, I'm sorry, deck 6 on the aft part. You also notice some outdoor space. For an expedition vessel, that's pretty rare, to be honest with you. So you do have a lot of outdoor space. And the itinerary that you're going to be on, weather permitting, and I think it will be great, is that you'll utilize that space quite a bit. Deck 7 is where we have the dome lounge, which I'll talk a little bit about, and then of course deck 8. So very small, but absolutely again very easy to traverse throughout. So let's just talk about the suite accommodations really quickly. So we do offer a couple of navigator suites, and these are on deck 5 and deck 6, and they're 1-bedroom suites with oversized private balcony. Again, as I mentioned before, this does include butler service on board, and you get all the amenities that is listed below on the slide itself. I do want to point out the bathrooms on board, and I'm not a freak about bathrooms, but I got to tell you, the bathrooms on board our vessels are absolutely beautiful. Marble, just the whole everything. The showers are the best I've ever had, and I've been in this business 32 years. And I'm not just speaking primarily of the suites. I'm talking about every single bathroom on board. It's just really pretty stunning. Then we have the Discovery Suites, a little bit smaller, and that again is on deck 5. Same thing over, it's a 1-bedroom suite, oversized private balcony, which again includes butler service. And you'll see a little bit of change in the bathroom area, but we've got the shower, we've got the jets coming out from the side. And again, that's in every single cabin. And then we have the Journey Suite, which is on deck 5 and deck 6. And to John's point, yes, we're very limited in our suites. So if you're really serious and looking at this, and that's what you want to do when you sail in 26, you may want to look at that quickly. So let me talk to you a little bit about a majority of our staterooms are in category A and category B. And so these are 275, 285 square feet. If you notice that when I mentioned before, 90% of our vessel has verandas. If you notice, this does not have a veranda. This is what we call a Juliet balcony. A Juliet balcony is you'll see a lot of this possibly like in river cruises, but 270 square feet. What you do is you gain a little bit. Instead of having a balcony, you gain about 56 square feet in your living space. So there's a little button right next to your bed, and that window goes halfway down. To be honest with you, I think it's awesome. I've sailed in the Horizon staterooms before. They're really nice. The extra living space is nice. When I go to the category Bs, I'll show you the category Bs. The one thing about the Horizons is they're all the way aft, and they're on deck 5 and deck 6. Great location, but again, 270 square feet. And this is the difference between the category A's and the category B's. So the category B's are the same square footage, 270 square feet. But again, if you look, you'll see that they do have a balcony. And again, that's 56 square feet. But I got to be honest with you, I've sailed on this product quite often. And, the square footage, I mean, to have a balcony, especially on an itinerary that you're going on, or even when I sailed in Antarctica, it was awesome. You were able to go out into the veranda. So it just depends on what you feel good about. But again, same square footage. And the one thing I failed to mention, and I apologize, is that every single cabin category that we have, be it a suite or all the way down to the adventure suite or adventure cabins, this has just, if you notice, it just has a picture window. But every single cabin that we have on board has the same amenities that you would get in a suite, the same. The only difference is the fact that in a suite, you do have butler service. So I just wanted to point that out. You have the L'Occitane bath amenities, the showers, as I mentioned before, the wardrobes, the everything about it, sitting areas. L'Occitane, as I mentioned before. It's a great product that we offer. This is our theater on board. The beautiful thing about our theater is the fact that this can accommodate all of our guests at one time. So if you want to say whatever itinerary you're on, you'll see a lot of lectures in the theater. Obviously, we do show movies periodically, but the nice thing about it, it's beautiful theater. And again, we could sit all of our guests at one time. If you decide that maybe you just want to watch it in your cabin, that's fine. Or just right outside of this particular theater is the Atlas Lounge, and we have TVs out there that you could watch it too. So, but a beautiful, beautiful space, in my opinion. This is the Atlas Lounge. This is the first thing you will see when you walk on board our vessel. You'll be directed to the Atlas Lounge, and that's where you'll sit down with one of our onboard consultants. They will walk through your documents for you, and if you have any questions, and again, if you want a soda, or if you want a cocktail, cup of coffee, whatever, they'll make sure they take care of you, and then they'll direct you, or actually take you to your stateroom. But this, again, the Atlas Lounge, I believe is awesome. It's on deck 4. It's really utilized quite often in the mid-afternoon to late afternoon, because the main restaurant that we have is right down the corridor. So, but the Atlas Lounge is the first place that you will see when you get on board our vessel. This is Paula's Pantry. This is one of my favorite spots on the ships. Paula's Pantry is it's basically a to-go, and it's the coolest thing because basically it's everything is freshly baked. My preference is I'm an early riser. I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, 5:30. A lot of times I'll go down to Paula's Pantry even at 6 o'clock. They're open from 6:30 to 6:30, but a lot of times most of them are there at the same time at 6 o'clock early. I'll get a cup of coffee and I'll walk right down the corridor there, go through the restaurant, and go sit outside in a chair and just enjoy my coffee. But this is a great place. If you're on a shore excursion, you get back, the restaurant's not open, grab a sandwich. If you are leaving early for a shore excursion, you can grab a croissant, grab a donut, grab whatever you want, specialty coffee. Paula's Pantry is a hit. We love it, and our guests absolutely love it. This is our main dining room. This is just a shot of, it wraps around, beautiful floor-to-ceiling windows. And if you notice in the back there, you'll notice there's a door that heads out, and I'll show you that. But this basically, we can handle everybody in our main dining room at one time if they so choose. It is open seating in the morning. It's open seating. We do offer a buffet in the morning. We have offer a buffet at lunch, but also in the morning you could do cook to order breakfast also. Very beautiful, beautiful setting. And then in dinner, it is off the menu only. Again, this is open seating, so you come and go as you wish. The nice thing I like about our dining room is there's a couple little alcoves that you can actually, if there's a group of you, maybe 4, 6, 8, up to 10, possibly you could talk to the maitre d' and maybe have that for a night. I mean, obviously there's no upcharge for that. So just a FYI. So this is the extension of the main dining room. This is our alfresco dining. Awesome, especially obviously weather permitting. We didn't use this in Antarctica when I sailed back in November, but it's a beautiful area. It seats quite a few, and it's just a great area to have breakfast, lunch, or dinner. Again, weather permitting, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful setting. We do have a fitness studio. We have everything that you would get on a big cruise ship, but just on a much smaller scale. This serves its purpose. I will tell you, this absolutely serves its purpose, but we do offer a fitness studio. Our dome observation lounge is absolutely beautiful. It's on deck 7. It's all the way forward. There's basically a 280-degree view of the ocean. And again, as I mentioned, it's all the way forward. This is where you'll see most of our guests gather in the evening after dinner, or even before dinner. We'll have a little bit of, maybe a piano player guitarist. If we're in a port long enough, maybe we'll have local entertainment. But this is a great place to go. We also serve a high tea in this particular lounge, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful area. We do have a pool on board on all of our vessels, and obviously in Antarctica it doesn't use that often, but the hot tubs are used quite frequently, I will tell you. And then if you notice in the back area, there is an area, it is a buffet, and again in warm weather destinations, we do serve a lunch buffet in warm weather destinations. Sorry, I'm going backwards. Sorry. And part of that area is what we call 7 Aft Grill. 7 Aft Grill is an outdoor area, again, weather permitting, as far as it seats 18 guests. This is basically our steak, seafood, phenomenal dinner. Reservations are required. So if you're interested and you look at the weather and everything's going to be okay and it's going to be open, I would highly recommend that you do this straight up as soon as you get on and make a reservation. There is, again, no upcharge for 7 Aft Grill, but a great, beautiful, beautiful setting outdoors. And this, of course, is the renting track that I had talked about. It's exactly 20, not 20, but it's 14 laps around, and that'll give you a mile. You get a little dizzy, but it serves its purpose. And this is Water's Edge, the area I was talking a little bit about before. Awesome area. It's on deck 5. It almost feels like you're going through crew quarters because you got to go through these big heavy doors. And you get outside, Water's Edge. And again, obviously, I took this when I was in Antarctica. But the cool thing about it is that you can't see it, but there's benches that are wrapped around the bow, and those are heated. But this is absolutely stunning views of no matter where you are. If you're in Dublin, or if you're in Lisbon, or you're in Bordeaux, or if, again, you're in Antarctica. Great place to hang your hat for a little while. So let me talk a little bit about the itinerary that we chose for you. I personally have not done this itinerary. I know we did it last year. We're doing it again in 25 and, of course, in 26. So this is a really sought after itinerary. It's basically a Dublin to Lisbon itinerary. And I'll just kind of talk a little bit about the destinations that we're going. Again, I apologize, I haven't been in these destinations, but the fact of the matter is that we, most times we do double up on certain itineraries, but this is one that's sought after. All of our past guests that have talked to us about it, they love this particular itinerary. So again, let's just kind of walk through it a little bit. Obviously, Dublin is Ireland's capital. And again, the beauty of this is, we don't leave. I believe, I don't have the numbers with me, but I believe we don't leave till later on in the day, probably around 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock. My guess is most people would come in maybe for a pre, but it's Dublin speaks for itself. It's a fantastic destination. And then Waterford, Ireland. This is, I have been to Waterford, Ireland, but again, not on a cruise. This is a beautiful area. I know we're in Waterford. I do believe that we're there from, I believe it's around 7 in the morning till about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. But there's obviously a lot of things that you could do as far as excursions. The 5 national fishery harbors, I actually been to them, and it's really cool. The Fisherman's Hall. I'm a fisherman, so it's very cool. And then we have La Rochelle, France. This is just it's just a cute little old town village. There's the old harbor of Vieux-Port. Again, just a great little area. And we will be there from, I believe we arrive a little bit later. I think it's around 10 in the morning, and then we depart at, I believe it's 7 or 8 o'clock at night. But there's a lot about La Rochelle, which is quite beautiful. And then Bordeaux, again, I think Bordeaux speaks for itself. For those wine lovers, this is the place to be. And we do have some great excursions in Bordeaux. And the thing about Bordeaux is what I love about this itinerary is that you actually will get into Bordeaux. I think it's around 8 a.m. and then you don't leave until 5 p.m. the following day. So you will be very busy in Bordeaux. I I do love a good bottled glass of wine, or maybe a bottle, depending on the day. Um, but the area inside Bordeaux, I think the city is absolutely beautiful, beautiful. And then Bilbao, it's Bilbao. I thought it was Bilboa, but it is Bilbao, Spain. Um, this, of course, is the home of the Guggenheim. And again, just canals throughout this little area, um, beautiful little gardens throughout. And it's just just a beautiful, peaceful, very quaint little village. And I think there we're there again. I believe we get in at 11 o'clock, 10 or 11 o'clock in the morning, but we don't leave here until almost midnight. So you're able to experience. I mean, it would be awesome if you could experience to have dinner in this cute little village. I mean, you could have dinner obviously on the ship, or have a snack on the ship and go out and have dinner in this beautiful little village. And then Cajon, Spain. Um, this is an area that again, we're there pretty much all day. We get in at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I believe we leave at 5. And a lot of botanical gardens. It's again just it's really a quite a beautiful itinerary that John has selected. I really like it. And it's again, as I mentioned early on, this is something that our past guests have asked for, and it's very popular. And for us to be able to book this now, because it's not even out for general public, as I mentioned, that's pretty huge in and of itself. And then, of course, Lisbon is just a beautiful city. It is obviously uh, the, the capital of Portugal. This is it's again speaks for itself. We'll get there at 11 o'clock in the morning, and then overnight, and then you'll disembark the vessel the following morning. So, but this again is a great itinerary. The fact that we have a couple of overnights in the itinerary, it's really very cool. As I mentioned early on, the fact that this particular itinerary that we selected, it leaves October 1st and uh, arrives into Lisbon on October 10th. But as I mentioned early, we do have, for those of you that want to extend your stay, or before you get on this particular itinerary, you will have an opportunity to possibly pre-book. And this is on September 21st, where we're doing a Reykjavik to Dublin. The nice thing about that, so obviously you start in Iceland, and then you go to the Faroe Islands, and then stop in Scotland, and then do Ireland, and then a little bit of Wales, and then again you dock in Dublin. So there was always that option for you all. The Yachtsman Cook-Off is very cool. We our culinary program on board our vessels is spectacular. I can tell you it's absolutely spectacular. And our head chefs are amazing. We do cook-offs periodically, and the wonderful thing about this is it's participatory, so our guests actually get to compete. It's very cool. The last one I was on there, we had a chef that was on board. His name was Ippy. He came from Hawaii. He did he was amazing with our guests. He used to go up against I think Bobby Flay in the past. So the quality of our chefs is really top notch, and a free cultural immersion that we do typically on this particular voyage. Um, Obviously we recognize our military. We do offer up to a 20% savings on all of our sailings. if you're going to join us on the MOAA sailing, the signature sailings, or if you talk to John about another sailing, you're going to get a military discount up to 20%. This is the first thing we implemented when we started this company. Now, granted, it could be 5% on one, 10%, 15, whatever it is, but we do offer a military discount on
Hey,
all of our
Kim,
sailings. Yeah,
Kim, just to jump in real quick, because this
yeah, go
comes
ahead.
up. The MOA signature groups, since we held the entire ship and we know that everybody who's going on them will either be a MOA member or a MOA guest, that military discount has already been factored
Yep,
into the pricing. Because a lot of times people will look at that price and say, what is the military discount? So on other sailings or other groups we might do where everyone may not be a MOA member or a MOA guest, it may not be included. But on both the signature groups, as I said, everyone on both of those ships will apply for that military discount. So when we worked on the rates with Atlas, they went ahead and applied the military discount to every cabin. So that's already included in the pricing. Just wanted to make that clear.
yep. Thanks, John.
Sure.
So at the end of I'm really going to wrap it up and turn it back over to John in a second. But again, having been in the cruise business for 33 years now, I think it is 32, 33 years. I have to tell you that this product is amazing. It again, not to repeat myself, but I'm going to, because again, if you can look at this ship, the ships are beautiful. We have a ton of outdoor space, as I mentioned before. The staff is absolutely incredible. The fact that these are newer vessels, the fact that you're sailing on a vessel that it is truly a yacht experience, and also the fact that we're very, very casual. I've been cruising for, like I said, 33 years. And, it's typical for me way back in the days, I used to wear a tux, you wear a suit or you wear a tux. And, then you get to sport coats and on our particular ships, you know what? I take a sport coat periodically, but I rarely do I use it. So it's very, very casual. As I mentioned before, our staff is incredible. Our culinary program is unbelievable. And the fact that we're all inclusive and the fact that we include gratuities, it's just a really, really good product. And I stand by it. I really do. And yeah, that's kind of where I'll end my little chat with you all. But you can't miss with this particular product. So at this point in time, I'm going to turn it over to John because he is going to talk briefly. I know we talked about this, but go ahead, John.
Oh, well, this is just a screenshot of the Greek Isles
Yeah.
web site, but we have an identical site for the Western Europe cruise. So you can kind of just see, I mean, this is a screenshot. Greek Isles, we did a webinar on it. If you scroll back up again, Tim.
Sorry.
That's right. We did a webinar just on Greek Isles where we kind of went through day to day. As I mentioned, we have 12 staterooms left on that. If you are interested in Greek Isles, we'll include a link to this so you can actually go in and watch this webinar. It's basically what you're going to receive tonight or tomorrow on this one. So you can actually watch the webinar that Tim and I did. It may be Tim and I, it may have been Kathy Kasuma and I who did it. But anyway, that's there. But anyway, if you look across the top, there's so much information on this website. Pricing and accommodations, that's where it has the price for all the cabin categories. And it actually has a ship deck plan where you can see where all those cabins are, day-to-day itinerary. Inclusions kind of goes through everything's included. And then there's a tab for pre and post, shore excursions, terms and conditions, book now. And then there's a link to the signature group website where you can see all the signature groups. On that pre and post is where we have the information on Greek Isles. The back-to-back option is after the 7-night Greek Isles cruise, there is a 9-night Athens to Dubrovnik cruise that you combine into a 16-night Eastern Caribbean cruise. So it includes Greek Isles and the Eastern Med. Caribbean.
Yep.
So it ends up being a 16-night Eastern Mediterranean cruise. It includes all the Greek Isles and the rest of the Eastern Med in it. And that will actually have the pricing and the day-to-day for that back-to-back cruise option. If we were to take a screenshot of the Western Caribbean signature group for 2026, it's going to have the same tabs. So you'd click on pricing. Somebody asked about what the pricing for the back-to-back is. And my answer to them, your best bet is just to give us a call or drop us an email. That screen is coming up in just a second, and talk to a consultant who can get that information for you. But on the Western Caribbean, the pricing for that 10-night Western Caribbean, why do I keep saying Caribbean? Western Mediterranean cruise will be on that tab. And then the pricing by cabin on the optional extension is on that other tab. So they're actually on two separate tabs to make sure it's clear, and each is priced separately. So you combine the prices for the two of them. So as I said, if you're looking at the back-to-back, probably best just to give us a call at the 800 number or drop us an email. Email may be easiest. Just drop us an email. I think the person who sent it, I didn't have their last name. Otherwise, I just sent it out to them. I think it was John F., if I'm remembering correctly. But whatever it was, just send an email to MOAA, mail@moavac.com, and say, hey, what's the pricing for an A1 or an A2 on the back-to-back, and they'll get back with you. I will say that we have 40 people, I think, that are on the back-to-back on Greek Isles already. And if you are looking at doing back-to-back, you have some time. Eventually, that 10-night Reykjavik Dublin cruise will be opened up to the general public. So to be clear, we're holding every single cabin on the signature group. The signature group is that 10-night Dublin to Lisbon, but a lot of members, as I mentioned, 40 of them, are wanting to do a back-to-back in 2025. So if you want to do a back-to-back, you do probably want to book by the end of the year. Tim, when do you think 2026 cruises will appear on your website?
I gotta believe it's
January,
probably
February?
I to be honest with you, I don't have a date. I would
Okay.
say a few months from now.
A
So
few months from now. Okay, so by the end of the year. So if you want to do back-to-back, we do have, I know, at least one couple who wanted to be in a suite. So they are not in a suite on the 7-night Athens to Athens cruise, but then are in a suite on the Athens to Dubrovnik cruise. But if you're doing back-to-back, obviously one of the things you're going to want is to have the same stateroom for both sailings. So that won't be an issue up until the point that first cruise for Western Caribbean, that Reykjavik to Dublin, opens up to the general public, and then you may want stateroom, 509. But if somebody books that, you can't do the back-to-back. And that even when I was saying that sounded a little confusing. If it was confusing, feel free just to drop an email or call and talk to an agent who could probably explain that a little bit better. But we have so many people, even from the very first signature group we did, which was a 7-night Paris and Normandy cruise, who wanted to do a pre or a post land or another cruise or something like that, that we decided to start offering these. And obviously there's 40 people who were interested enough to book it in 2025. So questions, we ready for those, Tim?
sure, go ahead.
Okay. I think some of them I went ahead and answered. We don't even need to talk about, but just so other people know the questions if they haven't seen them in there. Somebody asked about transfers. Transfers are not included. We will have pricing for transfers for the 2025 cruise probably in January or February of 2025. So we wouldn't expect to have pricing for transfers for the Western Europe the cruise until the end of 2025 at the soonest. As soon as we have them from Atlas, we will let you know. But I mean, you're looking probably somewhere in the $50 to $90 range for transfers.
It's minimal. Really.
Yeah, it's minimal. And then we will have 1- and 2-night pre-packages available as well. Obviously, that would be in Reykjavik if you did the back-to-back. It would be in Dublin if you just did the one cruise. Because if you just did the Dublin to Lisbon, you might want to come in a day or two early to expense Dublin. It's a fantastic city. Somebody asked about the difference between Juliet and private. You did a great job of explaining it. I might actually switch back over to host. I have a picture I was thinking I might share. Someone asked if the Horizon stateroom could be split into 2 single beds. The answer to that, of course, is yes. Tim, to
Correct.
expand upon that, are all of the beds convertible on this ship?
Yes, they are. Yes, yes, they
Okay,
are.
then that makes it an even easier answer. We had a question about what, if any, ports we tender in on this cruise. I know the cruise has not even officially been released yet. As Tim said, they were still working on itineraries. It wasn't until they actually finalized the itineraries that we went in and grabbed the entire ship, and we wanted to start promoting it right away. So I'm not sure we know yet, but I would expect it's some of the ports you would tender from what I've seen, particularly the smaller ports. But because some of the ports we go to, be it in 2025 or 2026, are not ports that a lot of the bigger cruise lines go to. So they don't really have the port facilities that people might be used to in some of these bigger ports. Tim, do you want to talk a little bit about tendering versus
I,
docking?
you know, it's really a pot shot. My wife and I just sailed from Venice to Athens on a 9-day cruise, and we tendered one time in Dubrovnik. That was it. I'm looking at my schedule. I can only tell by, when we get into Waterford, it looks like the pilot gets on at 5 o'clock in the morning. Not that that means much, and we get in at 8. So I I have the pilot schedule, and I have the arrival schedule and the departure schedule, and I don't have the pilot out schedule. But it just really it just depends. Again, I sailed in the Canary. My wife and I sailed about a year and a half ago in the Canary Islands, and I believe again we docked in every single island. So again, it just depends. But I will tell you that the embarkation or disembarkation of, when you go on a short excursion with a vessel that has 182 guests, no, maybe 100, we can max out maybe at 190. Trust me, it's so smooth. I mean, that's the wonderful thing about sailing on a ship of this size. The fact of the matter is, I mean, you literally, I mean, even if we're using Zodiacs, I mean, it's so rarely do we use Zodiacs, but if we're using Zodiacs, it's very rare that you're going to wait that long. You don't get into some of the things that, some of the bigger ships have where you got to grab a number and wait a half hour, 45 minutes. I mean, you are on and off the ships very, very, very quickly. So again, tendering possibly, we don't guarantee it. We don't guarantee docking, but I can tell you in the 3 sailings I've been on in warm weather, we pretty much docked other than one, I would think maybe 1 or 2 ports on both cruises combined. Obviously, when you're in Antarctica, you don't port anywhere. So you just, you don't, you just do landings. That's it. So.
Got it. What is the cancellation policy? I will answer that. So the signature groups are unique in the fact that when we hold the entire ship, the way we arrange this with whomever it is, be it Colette for the tours, Uniworld for the cruises, Atlas, Uniworld for the river cruises, Atlas for the ocean cruises, the deposit is non-refundable and the final payment is non-refundable as soon as they are made. I will say we have in some instances been able to move that deposit to a future signature group. So if you are in 2025, we might be able to move that to 2026. But keep in mind, we're going to these companies and we're asking them to not put this cruise on their website and hold the entire ship for our group. So rather than having, 40,000 travel agencies across the country selling the space if someone cancels, we only have ourselves doing it. And the other thing is if you book a stateroom and you end up canceling it, for example, we just had this happen on the Greek Isles where somebody held an E2 stateroom. I think there's an E2, right, Tim?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, that's one of the one almost the size of a suite, but it doesn't have a walkout balcony, if I'm describing that correctly. Anyway, so they held that cabin for 5 or 6 months, and we've been telling people for 5 or 6 months that there were no E2s, and then they just canceled. And so members who might have wanted that stateroom did not have access to it. What we would say is don't actually book and make a deposit until you're sure you're going to go. And then get trip insurance. And then if you can't go because of a medical issue, for either yourself or anybody in your immediate family, or if you're not traveling with immediate family, your traveling companion, you can then cancel and file an insurance claim and get your deposit back. But on a situation like this, where we're holding the entire ship, or Uniworld, where we're holding the entire ship, or Colette, where we're holding 2 buses and we're holding every seat, it's really almost an equity issue, as well as the policies of these vendors we work with that don't book unless you're going to go for sure, unless there's something that causes you to cancel. And then that's why we recommend trip insurance for everybody. If anybody has any more questions about that, you can ask any of your consultants, or you can drop me an email. Everybody should have my email and phone number. If not, you could just call the 800 number and ask for me. My name's John Brenneman. You can drop an email to mail@moavac.com and ask them to forward it to me, or simply enough, my email address is going to be john@moavac.com, and that's JON without an H. I always love to hear from people. So we hope you can go, but yeah, make sure that you're going to go. I know with some of these other cruise lines talk about they sell the average cabin 3.5 times, and people just go in and hold them, and then they have that cabin, and then they decide when penalties start, a year down the road, whether or not they want to go. And we have clients like that, and that's great to take advantage of that system where you go out and you hold 5 different cabins, and then months down the road, you decide which one you go to. That's not fair to other members who might want that stateroom for you to do it. It's not like it's general public. And I know I'm sounding a little bit passionate about that, but I somewhat am. So there you go. Past passenger discount. Tim, can you share options? Can I take back can you make me the host again?
Sure. How do I do that?
There should be something at the bottom which says the host disabled participant. You just need to go click on it. Is that it?
Yep.
You should be able to make. The reason I'm doing this is I actually have a slide. Somebody asked about past passenger, and I actually have the slide from the last one we did. So panelists. Okay, reclaim host. Actually, I did it. Okay. So I should be able now to share my screen. It's this one. Share. Okay, so we'll just start this from the beginning. Okay, so you can see my screen now, right, Tim?
Correct.
Okay, so we'll just click forward. Oh, I'm gonna go back one. Oops. Okay, so this, just one other thing. I threw this in real quick while we were actually talking, because people were asking about the Juliet balconies. This is actually on Uniworld. If you read my answer to the question, on Uniworld, they call them French balconies. It's basically the same thing, but I think this picture gives you an idea of what we're talking about when we talk about them. So the window comes halfway down. And then basically your entire stateroom becomes your balcony. So as you can see, you can lean over it. There's a table right there. So you can sit there and have your morning coffee and your breakfast or whatever you'd like, and you get that balcony experience. So you get more cabin. You just can't walk out and stand on it. Tim, anything you want to add to the whole Juliet balcony
No,
description?
that's pretty much, yeah, I mean, again, I've sailed in the Juliet balconies and
Yeah.
in it's great. I mean, it's awesome.
Excellent. Yeah. And actually I leave on Saturday to sail on the World Voyager.
Correct.
And I know that at least a couple of the ports that we're stopping on, I'm actually sailing from Rio to Montevideo, that a couple of those we are going to tender. So if you drop me an email or call me November 5th or after, I will have just gotten off the ship. Mike Tyrell, also, who is our VP here, sailed on Atlas last year. He went to Antarctica, so he'll be able to address this as well about it. but from what I've heard from Mike, there are no real issues with tendering. Okay, somebody asked about past passenger. This is a screen that was shared with me. This was probably the beginning of the year that kind of goes through the past passenger program. So as you can see, they have the different tiers based on how many nights you were on. So if you sail on the Greek Isles, and you do Dubrovnik, that gives you 16 nights. So you're still at the purple level. So you can kind of see what those amenities are. It's not until you get to the bronze level, so you have at least 36 nights, which interestingly enough is if you do the back-to-back in 2025 and the back-to-back in 2026, that actually is 36 nights total, then you receive a $100 onboard credit. So not a discount for past passengers, but these are the amenities you receive. Tim, anything you want to add to
Nope,
this?
that's good. You got it covered.
Okay, and then once again, I said, this is some of the slides that I had that obviously Tim had in his. This is actually the ship deck plan of the three decks, 3, 5, and 6, that have staterooms on them, and this shows the 12 staterooms that remain available on the 2025 Greek Isles cruise. We just opened up Western Europe. So the deck plan basically shows all the staterooms. We haven't started marking staterooms sold yet. As Tim said, we've sold 2 of the 10 suites. I don't know which 2. If you talk to an agent, they will have that information. And I know we've sold a handful of other staterooms. By the time this is announced, December 1st, we will list all the staterooms that are sold by that time. So that's forthcoming. But right now, there's so few of the staterooms that have been sold and all of the cabin categories available. We haven't gone in and started marking them sold yet. But if you were interested in 2025 Greek Isles, as you can see, and the stateroom 627 is the one I was mentioning that was actually sold for a number of months, where we were telling people, that none of those E2s were available, that just became available last week when someone canceled. Okay, so, and then I'm just going to go back to this screen and we'll see what other questions we have that we haven't asked yet. Okay, so that was kind of Bob's question on the past cruiser discount. You can see the past cruiser amenities. Trip insurance. Gerald, we typically recommend an insurance plan we have with TripMate. For MOAA members, we actually designed the plan with MOAA members in mind. It's a non-age rated plan, which means all MOAA members pay the same. So as members get older, a lot of insurance programs actually charge higher premiums to older members. Our kind of argument, for lack of a better word, with the insurance company when we negotiated this insurance plan was the fact that MOAA members are healthier than the general public, so older members should have the same rate. That was actually a change earlier this year. It was previously, it had, I think, 4 different age categories. Most plans have 12 to 16. And so earlier this year, we actually finally got them to move from 4 rate age tiers to just non-age rated. So everybody pays the same rate. The other thing is we talk about our concierge level of service. When MOAA members have trip claims, if they would like, I will actually fill out the claims paperwork for you. I am licensed in all 50 states as a licensed insurance agent. I'm the only one here at MOAA Vacations, but there's a lot of travel agencies out there that sell trip insurance and don't have anyone on staff who's licensed to sell insurance. So if you have a claim, I'll actually fill out the claim paperwork for you, send it to you, review it, and then we submit it to the insurance company. That's important for 2 reasons. Number one, I filled out hundreds of claim forms, so I can do it quicker than someone who's never sold it before, just because of the repetition of doing it. And the other thing is, with my background in doing this for almost 40 years now, I guess, is you want to make sure every I is dotted and every T is crossed when you submit it. The first time, because when it's initially submitted, is the easiest time, believe it or not, to get an insurance claim, which is why I can sit here and say in the last decade, we have not had a single trip insurance claim that was submitted denied, which, if you're getting trip insurance, the most important thing is if you have a claim, you get your claim paid. So I will make sure that when we file that claim is done flawlessly. so that hourly employee who sits there and does one claim after another will look at it, see the 9 points that are on that claim form, see that they're all filled out correctly, and approve the claim. So yes, Atlas, Tim, Atlas has trip insurance, right?
We do, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
My recommendation would be at least compare the pricing and the benefits. I think we're very price competitive for the benefits that we supply. My background, I was in insurance before I was in travel. So I'm a firm believer in trip insurance, and I'm a firm believer in working with an insurance company that, like TripMate, as I said, if you have a claim, I'll fill out the paperwork. And then if you have any questions, one updates or anything like that, you contact me instead of sitting on hold with an insurance company, and we'll get your claim paid as quickly as possible. And by the way, quickly as possible is still going to be about 6 weeks. Okay, that's answer live. Ah, somebody said excellent. Thank you. Monty, I would suggest I would say my answer is yes, but as people have probably heard me say before, I'm not actually a travel agent. I think you work with Mike. I would contact Mike with that question. The question is booking air 2 days prior to arrival, even without an extension or without the prepackage already. We do have a prepackage that we can get you information on that isn't through Atlas. It's through a third-party vendor. It is refundable up until, I think, 6 months prior to departure. Mike would be able to answer that, but I don't see an issue with it, but I would suggest talking to your cruise consultant. Down payment and final payment due. I know the down payment, the deposit is $1,000 per person. I can't remember. Tim, do you know, is it 1,500 for singles? Is that right? 1,000 per person, double, 15
Yes.
for 1,500 for singles?
Yes.
Okay. And then the final payment is 6 months prior to departure. I don't have my little calendar up, but 6 months prior. So if this is in October, you're looking for a final payment probably the end of March, 1st of April of 2026. So a long time off. Tim, this is one for you. How many elevators are on the ship? Do you know? I mean, there are elevators. I know that much. It's on.
Yes, there's two.
There's
Well,
two.
there's 2 aft and 2 forward. No, I'm sorry, 1 forward, 2 aft. Sorry.
Bob asked about. Oops, I didn't do what I wanted to do. Okay. Oh, there you go. Bob, I think you're asking about this slide for the past passenger programs. I think this is on the Atlas website, but probably the easiest thing to do on any of this stuff is I seem to recognize your name. I think you booked with us before. So just email Tim or Lisa or Chris or Mike or whoever it is you've worked with in the past. Lady, I don't want to name them all. I don't want to leave anybody out either. Just ask them to send it to you. Or you can email me at john@moavac.com and ask me to send you this slide. I'm more than happy to send it to you to see the 5 different kind of past passenger levels that they have. So it's probably the easiest thing to do rather than search the website for it. It's on there somewhere, but literally call the 800 number or drop us an email and say, can you send me the past passenger information? And I will send that over. Okay, and accommodations for single travelers. They do not have single staterooms, but we have a single traveler, a solo traveler rate on all the stateroom categories except the suites. That single supplement, which is the industry term, what a solo traveler pays to go as a single, varies by the cabin category you suggest, but that is on the website for both Greece and Western Europe. And we've gone over by a lot. Answer live. Oh, somebody said John's claim filing service is amazing. Thank you. I think it's important, right? If somebody has trip insurance, and we can make, well, it kind of goes back to our concierge level of service. Anything we can do to make any process, the cruise booking process, the cruising process, the claims filing process, easier for you. That's what we're here to do. Kathleen, it's not quite half the double rate, if I remember correctly. But
depends.
it's kind of close. Well, it's not, because there's the port charges are included in the rate, so you don't pay the port charges twice or something like that. But let's say it's around 40%. It might vary a little bit. That it's more of a dollar amount. I know on Greek Isles it's $1,500 for the single supplement, and if I remember correctly, the AO stateroom is $39.99. So 2,000 would be 50%. So it's not quite that, but there is a single supplement, and those are listed. Since we're talking about it, we do a single share program. We've had some great success with that. We started that in 2019 when we did the very first MOAA signature group, where we actually took 2 solo travelers. In this case, it was women. We've done a lot more pairing of women than men, but we can do it with either. But if you would like a roommate to avoid that single supplement, for example, on Uniworld, the single supplement is 100%. So you actually pay twice as much to go as a single. So we actually match people. Solo travelers, I'm sure all of them will attest to this. And when I'm going on Atlas next week, I'm going as a solo. So, you know, I have some experience with this. It's not a one-time thing. If you're a solo traveler, it is an ongoing issue. We have, and the reason I bring that up is we have people who we paired up on that Paris and Normandy cruise in 2019, who have gone on other cruises or tours and paired up again. So if you can find somebody that you get along with, it's always going to be less expensive in travel, you know, to do that. And one of the things, you know, that I was talking to somebody once, because they were asking me of why there is, if you think about a hotel, if you go to a hotel and they have a rate and they say it's 200 a night, it's 200 a night whether you have 2 people in that room or 1 person in a room. So in effect, that is 100% single supplement, because 2 people are obviously paying $100 per person each. So it is industry wide, as far as hotels and villa stays and resorts and cruises and river cruises and all and tours, that that there's that single supplement. So if you're interested, let your MOAA vacation consultant know that you'd be interested in possibly doing a single share. And then if we find another person of the same sex, we only put women with women and men with men. And if we have somebody else who wants to do it, then what we do is we put you in contact with each other. You can either call or text or email or whatever you want to do, and then decide amongst yourselves if it's somebody you want to travel with. And hopefully they do have a shared background with you, right? You know, they have the shared military background. So hopefully if you go together on one group, you'll find somebody who you can possibly travel with again in the future. And is the military discount already applied to the pre-Iceland and Dublin cruise as well? Yes, it is, Bob, because that's a group rate. And so that group rate that we have for Reykjavik to Dublin has 2 discounts already. Well, it has 3 discounts. It has a group discount, it has a military discount, and it has the back-to-back discount. So that rate has all of those discounts already in it. So that is actually the rate that MOAA members and their guests would pay. That's a great question. I'm glad you asked that to end on. When we do the signature groups, we include all of the discounts in that on-site pricing as well. When Atlas eventually releases, you know, in, let's say, December or January, more likely in January, when they actually release the pricing for that Reykjavik to Dublin cruise, we'll actually update the website like we've done with Greek Isles. If you go to Greek Isles, you can actually see how much money you save from the general public on both that Greek Isles cruise and on the back-to-back cruise option. So as soon as we know what Atlas is charging to the general public, we'll actually be able to show exactly how much you're saving. But you are all those discounts are already included. Okay. I think Tim, this is going to be the longest webinar I've ever done. The last one, I had one once that went 15 minutes over.
Right,
But it's great. I love
cool.
the questions. That's why we're here. I know some people logged off because they probably had all their questions answered. But we're going to go ahead and cut it here. Any other questions? Drop us an email, give us a call. We're here to answer all your questions. Depending on upload download speed, so I have to download this, my team edits it, and then we have to upload it to YouTube, and we actually close in like an hour and a half. But hopefully, if we can get it done, we'll get it out tonight. If not tonight, tomorrow morning. You are going to get an email. It will have a link so you can watch this video again if you would like. And it will also have a link to both the Greek Isles 2025 signature group and the Western Europe 2026 cruise. And then, you know, if you're interested in other signature groups, all of the websites we have for any signature group, links to all the signature groups, because we'd love to have you join as many of these you'd like to. We do have people who do multiple every year, even though we only offer two or three each year. So anyway, Tim, I'm going to turn it over to you for the final word. I do want to thank you for taking a couple hours out of your time today. And that was just while we're on. I know we've talked about this a couple of times, putting this whole thing together. I know you're really busy. I know you have a lot of travel agents you work with. So if you're taking a couple of hours just for us, we really appreciate it. Turn it over to you for the final word.
As always, John, for you, anything. And I just appreciate the time everybody took to listen to this presentation. And by the way, I stand corrected. I don't know what I was thinking. We have two elevators. I knew that. One aft, one forward.
Okay.
I'm sitting there going, I'm trying to think, but I never use the elevators. So there you go. But again, thanks everybody. It is a great experience. If you have any questions about it, you know, you don't need to hear it from me because obviously I work for the company. But you can hear it from John's lips when he gets back because he's sailing on the Voyager in a couple days. So
yeah,
yep,
I got to start packing.
you better start packing. You don't
All
have to
righty.
pack a
Hey,
lot,
thanks,
John, because
thanks
remember,
everyone. It's always a
casual.
delight to have the opportunity to interact with members. And we'll see you again soon. We have 3 webinars in November, so you'll see information about that in the November newsletter that comes out November 1st. So we hope to see you on a future one as well. Have a great one, everybody.
Thank you, Chief. Thanks. Bye.